In this video, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the markets, why is this poop 1.4 ETH, and the question on everyone's mind is, are we going to make it or are we all going to die? And by the way, if you are interested in the Parallax whitelist, which we have still going on in our Discord, make sure to join our Discord. Link is in the description. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at @PatrickDang for the latest NFT updates. All right, first things first, we got to talk about the market sentiment. What's going on in the markets right now? So if we're looking at the main coins, which are going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum, market's been moving sideways for the most part. Over the past 7 days, Ethereum is pretty much at in between 1.7K to, 1.9, 2K, and it's kind of like in that range, right? So, which is all right, because right now in general things look kind of bearish, but if ETH is kind of stable and moving sideways, then maybe there's a little more confidence in the market than most people actually thought. But again, just because it's stable now doesn't mean it can't go down. If I were to guess, there's not a lot of factors of what's going on in the world right now that would push the markets up right now. My personal guess, although it's not financial advice, is that ETH will probably be sideways or go down, probably not go up. And if it did go up, it probably would be a little pump and then go back down. That's just my personal take. Again, not financial advice, just a guess. Now, when we are looking at the crypto fear and greed index, it's going to be at a 17. And if you didn't know what this is, it's just an algorithm that scrapes the internet and puts all this data together to say whether or not people are very fearful in the markets. And right now we are very, very fearful. Now, some people might see this as a time to buy. Some people might think that it might go lower. You got to do your own research to figure out what is the best strategy for you, depending on your timeline and everything like that. But in general, things are pretty fearful, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of blue chip projects and things like that continue to go down. Now, even with that said, it doesn't mean that there aren't plays in the markets that you can make, and it doesn't mean that everything is going down. So let's go ahead and get into this, right? So right now, when we are looking at the top NFTs, it's Solana project that's getting a lot of volume, but for today, let's talk about Ethereum, right? So the top project right now is going to be We Are All Going to Die, which is basically a free mint. And then you see all these other random projects, which a lot of people have mixed feelings about, right? The one I want to talk about today is I'll Poop It. Right now, this poop, which is kind of like a derivative of Goblin Town, because you're kind of using the same kind of text over here. It's not the same company as Goblin Town, but derivative, right? There's 10,000 supply, 1.3K owners, which is kind of an interesting ratio, but okay. And then the floor price is going to be 1.4 Ethereum. So you might be wondering, why is this poop 1.4 Ethereum, right? You have other projects that put in so many man hours of work, such amazing art, roadmap, this and that, but why is this poop with nothing? Essentially, it's just poop 1.4 ETH. And the reason, in my personal take, is that the team that is putting this together is just really good at creating meme projects. And when I say meme, it means that, they're not really trying to build a real company out of this. It's they're not trying to build an IP brand and go into the metaverse with this poop. They're just probably making it because they're hitting a nerve in the market where a lot of people want to gamble. They want to 10x their money really quick on a free mint or something like that. And they're going to buy this thing and then it just rides up, right? You can see that when this thing launched on June 1st, it wasn't really anything. It was 0.037. And then, with Goblin Town blowing up and all these derivatives blowing up, it's just people rotate their money around. Maybe from Goblin Town, they move on to the next thing that's a derivative, which is a very common play in traders, and then it just suddenly pumps, right? And also you have to keep in mind that you don't know who's actually pumping it. So a lot of times in the crypto markets, when something pumps and you don't know why it's pumping, for example, this poop, a question I would always ask is not why is it pumping, but who is pumping it. I'm not saying that there's a group of whales who are pumping these projects. I have no proof of that, but from my experience, not just looking at this project, but projects in general, there are a lot of projects out there that pump for no reason, mainly because whales get together and they buy it and then they create FOMO and they get the retail regular people to buy into it because something pumps. That's pretty common in crypto and NFTs, unfortunately, right? And nobody can really stop them because they can literally just pick a project and throw all their money at it and make something pump. And so it could be a situation like that, or it could be, let's say people are just wanting to gamble. They want to go into a project. They're looking for that 10X. That could also be it as well. Or it could be a combination of the two, right? So when you do a little more research, you click into, one of the NFTs and you click on created by I'm not going to curse on this channel, but S Deployer, right? What's interesting is that, this basically deployer has been creating different projects all in the meme space, all with no real utility, all with no roadmap. It's just for the vibes and really for the money because they're collecting royalties, right? We have the S Beast and we have the S Plunger. So you can see it's they're kind of serial NFT makers. And then if you look at the activity for this project, right, it's going to be a 0.75 ETH floor, but they literally made it on June 5th. So you got to understand how this game goes, right? Because a lot of people don't get it. It's okay, it's the little poop, start on June 1st, right? And so they were collecting royalties all the way up, free mint, whatever, easy to deploy. And then they're going to create the S Beast, which is going to come out on the 5th, 4 days later, right? And then same deal. They have the attention. They know that money's going to rotate around because people love to gamble. And then now this one's at a 0.75 ETH floor. And then the plunger over here, it literally is just a plunger. They started this one literally today. Okay, today, and the floor is like 0.31, right? You got to understand like how this goes. Like, it's not as if, you know, this person is trying to build a real brand out of this. Most likely, I don't know them, but you can see from their past history that all they're really doing is creating project after project after project. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had like 20 other projects under a different name somewhere down the line, right? And so these are the things you have to pay attention to. Understand, like, if you buy into these projects, it's extremely risky. You're basically gambling in a sense, or you're trying to do like trading and you're trying to compete against another person, because in the end, this will probably go to zero. Now, could they become the next whatever? Maybe, but probably not if they're going to create a brand every other day, right? Because once this is like not hot anymore, they're just going to move on to the next one most likely. And that's always the risk to these kind of projects. So when we're looking at, you know, top 10 NFTs of what's going on at Opensea, it's like, yeah, dude, it's just Goblin Town popped off, and then all the guys or girls who like to make derivative projects and make money just making project after project, they're going to take a derivative of that, trying to create different spins. If that works, then create another derivative on a derivative, and it just keeps going and going and going. And the reason why people buy it, if you don't know, is because they love to gamble. They love to try to 10x their money, or go broke trying. Now, when we are talking about these free mints, one other project I want to talk about is We Are All Going to Die, which, you know, it seems like a little more higher quality compared to the other ones in a sense. It's quite interesting where they're not a derivative of Goblin Town per se, but they do have this font over here that's, you know, it's kind of like mimicking that Goblin Town style, except it's using a different font this time. Okay, so personally for me, why this project is quite interesting is, first, they're kind of like doing a lot of plays in terms of like marketing and getting people interested, right? One interesting thing they did last night was that they burned a Mutant Ape. So basically they bought this Mutant Ape and they sent it to a burn address. So after that, nobody can use it anymore. Nobody can buy and sell it. It's just like gone from the world, right? A Mutant Ape right now is going to be 19.4 ETH on the floor. So let's just assume this is floor. I'm not sure if it is or not, but why would they burn, you know, basically 20 ETH for this almost like a publicity stunt, right? Or maybe it's an art project or statement, right? So you have to understand this, right? So We're All Going to Die, their royalty fee is going to be 5.7%, right? So when we look at the total volume, right, so it's going to be 8,600 times 5.7%. So that comes out to roughly 490 ETH. Now, 490 ETH at the time of this recording is going to be $875,000, right? If you're wondering why they would burn a Bored Ape, there's a lot of different reasons for this, right? When you're doing a meme type project where it's a free mint and then you actually make your money from the royalties, what your game is essentially, I'm not sure if they're trying to build a whole movement, but I'm just assuming that they're trying to make money. Otherwise, they would have just put 0% creator fees, right? So what the game is that you want to create as much attention and demand as possible for people to buy it, gamble in, and FOMO in, and then create a narrative of why someone would buy, right? So if you have 490 ETH, which is 875K since this launched, which has only been a few days, then, you know, when you spend 20 ETH, right, 20 out of like 490 is not that much. And they can also use the money that they made from the royalties to buy a Mutant Ape that's like, you know, 19 to 22 ETH. So if you kind of do the math, for example, let's say all they did was buy Mutant Apes and then every week they would burn a Mutant Ape. If that got people talking about it on Twitter, they just get made more and more royalties, and that, you know, when they burn 20 ETH, they make like 100 back. They're going to keep doing it all the time, right? I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying like someone would do that if their intention was just to make money. Now, I could understand that by burning a Bored Ape, creating a narrative around it, and then like they also had like this video that was quite interesting where there's like a pretty good voice actor like talking about their lore, I guess. Yeah, it could be something different. It could be something like, it could be a real brand if they really went for it. But at the same time, you have to understand that the moves that they're making are pretty calculated when it comes to driving attention and driving royalties. And whether or not they try to build a long-term brand, their short-term economics is still the same, right? They're making a lot of money from them creating this attention. All right, so as I was making this video, I learned a lot of new things when it comes to We're All Gonna Die. So I wanted to make sure that we cover, you know, as much as possible and have, you know, different perspectives to this, right? So for We're All Gonna Die, one of the first people to, you know, promote it on Twitter was actually Proof, which is one of the co-founders of EtherOrcs. And if you don't know EtherOrcs, they are, you know, seen as one of the more respected play-to-earn type of games. And essentially what happened was he did this little shill where he says, my friend is doing a CCO project, 1 mint per wallet, 6666 collection, and it's minting now, right? And so that's where people, you know, originally got interested in the projects, and I'm sure more and more people also jumped in. Now, from this project and what people tell me, they have been working on this project for around 10 months. I couldn't find a place to confirm that, but that's what people are saying. And if you kind of think about it, the art and the story and what they're doing from a narrative basis and getting people interested is more than just your average, you know, mint a random degen thing, right? There actually is like quite a lot of marketing mechanics and game theory mechanics that they're definitely putting in place. So one of the big things that got this on the map recently was that they were doing okay for the mint. People were buying on Opensea for, you know, like 1 Ethereum, more than 1 Ethereum. And then suddenly they just got delisted from Opensea, right? And then it was just like a flash panic where people started selling their NFTs. And then suddenly they got relisted like instantly. And then now the price just pumped up. And then what they did was people who sold and paper handed at the bottom, they gave those people some Ethereum, which is quite an interesting story that people love to talk about. There's also this sacrificial idea where, you know, basically after they do like an AMA recap or something like that, what you can do is you can burn your NFT, and then every time there's a recap, there's a different burn mechanic. The first time they ask, you know, for 6 sacrifices, so 6 people had to burn their NFTs. Second time they did it, they had to burn 21 Ethereum. That's why they took a Mutant Ape and burned it, because the Mutant Ape was worth 21 Ethereum at the time, and that's why they were like 21 people need to burn their NFTs. And it's not exactly clear what you're getting when you do burn your NFT, and it's kind of expensive, right? To burn one is like 1 to 2 ETH, but they say you're going to get equivalent exchange potentially. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to get equivalent exchange to what you burnt, but it's part of that game mechanic, right? And you know, the type of people that are very excited about this is it's almost like a gambling game, to be honest, right? Or you call it degen is another word for it, where you're doing these things, you're buying these things that you don't know what's going to happen, but you potentially can make a lot of money, or maybe you can lose it all, right? Especially when it comes to burning. So that's definitely an interesting mechanic. And it seems like, you know, on their Discord and things like that, people are really putting together lore and stuff like that. And so, you know, people are collecting these kind of images to put together for the project. So it's like a community thing where people are putting it together. And also it seems like a lot of people who were interested in buying and selling Goblin Town, they are rotating their money into this new project, We're All Gonna Die. And that's typically what happens, where, you know, you take profits from one project and you move it into the next exciting thing, and then the game continues on. So overall, you know, it's hard to say if this project is going to be, you know, a long-term project, but it definitely has captured the imagination of a lot of people. They're definitely getting a lot of royalty money when people are buying and selling these NFTs. And for a lot of people who like to degen and play this high risk game, it's very exciting, and it's a breath of fresh air, because, you know, they have like this narrative going on. They're telling their stories. They have an interesting font. They're doing these like, you know, voiceovers and videos and things like that. So it's definitely different. It's interesting. So I'm watching it closely to see how it plays out, because I think a lot of people are probably going to copy these mechanics, and we'll see how it goes. So now let's go ahead and shift things away from the whole meme world, and let's go ahead and talk about like business, right? So recently, Anthony Nguyen, who is the founder of Bored and Hungry, which is essentially the Bored Ape themed restaurant in California, he recently partnered up with Snoop Dogg to be a business partner, and they're going to create an NFT project, right? So what is this NFT project about? Well, they're going to be calling it the Food Fighters Universe. And what that essentially is they're going to be selling an NFT. And from my understanding of going on the website and, you know, reading more about them, they're going to use this almost like a fundraising mechanism to provide a membership or exclusive club, in a sense, for all their potential future restaurants. So it's going to be 10,000 unique Food Fighters NFT on Ethereum. So, you know, if you have one of these, you're going to get membership to events that they might throw, rewards, special in real life perks. Maybe you get some free ice cream on a certain day. We got Ben Baller over here. They also do merchandise as well. So, and they're probably going to do a lot of like events as well. So it's not necessarily clear what you are getting when you have the NFT, but in some way, in some form, it's going to support their ecosystem of probably like, you know, NFT based restaurants that they might do in the future, right? It could be like, for example, I don't know if this is their plan, but they can take the funding, buy different assets like different Bored Apes or different Azukis or whatever it is, or Clone X, and then create a restaurant out of that. Maybe create a pop-up ice cream shop. I don't know. Anthony Nguyen, I am aware of him. I definitely have seen him around because I'm from California myself, and he did create a lot of like interesting restaurants and like food experiences in the past. Like After's Ice Cream was one that I remember was really big back when I lived in California. So it's interesting, right? I think it's a new use case of like using NFTs or creating a collection to fund a, you know, restaurant group conglomerate in a sense. So if they can provide pretty good perks where it's really worth it to hold the NFT and you can go to all these restaurants, then it might be worth it, right? And so that's something that's definitely on my radar if you are someone of a foodie. Now, moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about another upcoming project, which is going to be Anero. I did see this earlier, but what caught my attention recently is that they recently just put out this teaser for their project, and it's an anime. So apparently from what they say, you know, the studio that's doing this has worked on projects like Attack on Titan, which is one of the largest, most popular animes right now. In my opinion, the anime looks pretty good, right? But it's not clear what the story is, but they had this theme of like going on subways and like trains and stuff. But I would say personally, like the anime looks great, but then when I look at the PFP project, I wouldn't say it's as strong as the anime. I think there's a different flavor, a different touch, but you know, it's all right. You know, it is what it is. if I were to critique it a little bit, like it doesn't make sense that the top of the forehead is like on the side, which is an interesting design choice, right? And I think to do a project like this, it probably takes quite a bit of funding. So first of all, going into the crew, yeah, so it doesn't seem like the team is doxed. So, you know, that's just is what it is. Let's go ahead and go to downtown. What does that mean? Kind of like explanation what's going on with the blueprint. Essentially, from my understanding, it's going to be a metaverse play, not too different from what we've already seen, to be honest. So no limitations, kind of sharing you the vision of like, they could be anything. Okay, cool. But then when we go into the transit map, so they're going to create some lore, they're going to create manga, and manga itself is not expensive to create, just so you guys know. Now we go into physical world, so they're going to create streetwear and merch events. Okay, cool. Then we go into the metaverse, so it seems like they want to create a world, right? So I'm looking at this and it's saying like they want to be able to have different clothes for your avatar. The sandbox environment, I don't think they mean sandbox the VX place, but I think they mean they're creating their own like metaverse in a sense. That's my guess based on this explanation, which I think is very hard as well, because it's like you're basically betting that you're going to be the next Decentraland or the next sandbox, right? And it's like kind of a big push to kind of just casually throw it in there, in my opinion, because if that was the case, then it probably should have a lot of resources, right? Not just like casually thrown in there. Yeah, then airdrops, it's like, okay, cool, airdrops. So I mean, for me, you know, it's the anime that they created that got me interested. When I look at the roadmap, I think it's okay. You know, if the roadmap is kind of similar to other people's roadmap, even though they're saying it's different, for me, it's similar. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's similar. I think it really comes down to the art of PFP in the end, right? If you're doing a metaverse play, you want people to rock your anime project as their PFP, then if you have something like this and you're going to do like merchandise, you're going to do metaverse, you're going to do like maybe a game, for example, right? Then what's going to happen is that people are going to compare this project to every other anime project, and then it's like, you know, who has a better art, who has a better community, and then a lot of times it really comes down to art, especially if you're going for the IP play, because that's literally your IP, right? So it's interesting, and I also think that, you know, what they want to do is build a platform as well to support different creators and help people launch projects, which I can respect, right? But yeah, if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. All right, so the next piece of news that we have to cover is that Cool Cats is going to allow you to use your MAYC tokens to put your NFT on a billboard during NFT NYC. So now when we're looking at CoinGecko and we're looking for the Cool Cats MAYC, which is a token that all Cool Cats generate just passively, right? The token itself, it's not doing too great. Started really high, and then now it's like $0.001, right? So it's not really worth a whole lot. So it seems like, you know, it's going to cost 400,000 MAYC tokens to put your little picture here, and I calculated it to be around $400. People have mixed feelings, right? Like the problem of Cool Cats that they have right now is that they have this token. They try to do like play to earn mechanics. Tokens were really hot at the time, and Cool Cats is kind of like OG in a sense. So, you know, they have tokens, but the problem is that because they have nowhere to spend the token, and like whatever game that they're creating is not like popping off, they're like, okay, we have all these tokens, but they have no place to spend it. So in a way, they have to create different ways outside of a PDE game to spend it, and this is going to be one of the routes. Now, some people are like, well, why do people have to pay you guys money to put the Cool Cats picture there? Why don't you just do it for free and build the IP? Which is a very good question. And I think for Cool Cats, if I were in their shoes, I would just be thinking like, dang, our floor price for our Cool Cat NFT is tied to our token, because a lot of people bought it in anticipation they would get passive income, and then the token is really not really worth that much. So we have to create a lot of different ways to use this token in order to get people interested in our project again, and so people can stop saying that the token is worthless. And I think this is one of the ways that they do it, right? I think the issue here is not that Cool Cats allows you to use tokens. Actually, I think it's a cool idea. I think the issue when it comes to narrative is that a lot of people bought Cool Cats because they wanted passive income, right? And they probably looked at Cyberkongz before and they're like, oh, Cyberkongz making bananas. Each banana is worth this much. Oh, you're making so much money. And then, you know, the market dies, and then like the coin goes, you know, down. And then the price of the NFT also drops because the narrative isn't as strong anymore, right? So I think the issue is that a lot of people bought a Cool Cat towards the end of that cycle of the last bull run because they wanted passive income. But in the end, if you kind of think a token is supposed to be a token, and you're supposed to use that token for maybe a game, or you're supposed to use it for like fun things, right? And not necessarily passive income, then it would have been okay. But because people have this attachment to the money and tokens so much, where they don't look at one token as one token, but they look at one token to US dollars, it kind of like messes up the whole vibe of what they were trying to go for initially. I think that's why people have mixed feelings of like, oh, like this is just like a terrible way to like, use tokens. But again, it's like, I think it really comes down to people's expectations. Some people are buying it to make money. I understand. Some people are in it because they're a fan. So I think this is actually a pretty cool idea, but it's not a cool idea for people that just want to make money and their bags are down when they're holding a Cool Cat, right? And so mixed feelings, but interesting dynamic, and a lot to learn from actually when you kind of just like study what they're doing. And so with that said, that's everything that we have to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to join the Parallax Discord, where we're still giving away whitelist opportunities for our NFT project. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for the latest updates, and I will see you guys in the next one.